How safe is your stack at home? Probably not very safe if you're using something like this flimsy little dictionary safe, but there are other solutions that you can consider to keep your gold and silver safe at home. So we're going to talk about safes, insurance, and creative hiding to keep the precious metals that you keep at home as safe as they possibly can be. Everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and welcome one and all to another Precious Metal Ramble. Today we're going to be talking about safety and security of your stack at home. We're going to cover safes, both small and large, home insurance, and also other ways that you can store bullion at home, creative hiding spaces, and other out-of-the-box thinking ways to keep you safe. We're also going to generally ask the question, can you really truly be safe if you stack gold and silver at home? So a lot to cover, and one of the reasons that we make this style of video is to get your thoughts and opinions, and they may well be very different to mine, and that's absolutely fine. I'd love to hear them, so please feel free to comment down below, and if you are enjoying this video as we go, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and hit that subscribe button. Now, this little dictionary safe here has got some silver. Now don't worry, I don't keep my gold and silver in a tiny little safe like this, because I think a lot of you would agree that something like this is probably not fit for purpose for putting a whole bunch of bullion in. You can literally pick it up and walk away with it, and at your leisure you could then break into it. And let's be quite frank, this is not a particularly secure bit of kit. However, it does potentially have a purpose in terms of hiding in plain sight, which we'll talk a little bit about when we get to the more creative ways to store bullion at home. That said, having a safe is where I want to start, and it is one of the biggest, I think, misconceptions out there for precious metal, that a safe is infallible. A safe is the single best thing that you can have. I mean, the clue's in the name. It's safe, surely. It is a safe thing to have. And whilst it provides a really great foundation level of protection for keeping anything valuable, whether it be precious metals or documents, passports, and various things like that, they're not infallible. Now, there's going to be a bit of a cultural question and difference here with our brethren across the sea in the USA, because they have very different opinions on home defence than we do here in the United Kingdom. But let's put this hypothesis to you, that you have been broken into and they've got to you or your wife or your children or your loved ones, and there's a gun to someone's head. What are you going to do? Of course you're going to open the safe. You're not going to simply say no. And I don't like giving advice on this channel, but my one piece of advice would be, goodness me, if somebody's breaking in and they want to get in your safe and they're threatening you and your family, just open the bloody safe. It's just money at the end of the day. So you can see right there and then, a safe can be the best in the world, but it can be easily opened. It's got a fundamental flaw, and that is, of course, the human condition. So you've got to bear that in mind. A safe is realistically one of the only things that can keep your stack safe when you're not in. But when you're in many ways, a safe is actually a bigger liability than not having a safe. And my argument to this would be, if you keep everything in your safe, if you have all of your precious metals, all of your cash in that safe, and somebody gets to you and somebody forces you to open it, you lose everything. Whereas if you've been a little bit smarter, if you've been a bit cleverer, and you've got maybe a decoy safe, or maybe you don't keep everything in that safe and you have some gold coins hidden away creatively within your house, then perhaps that safe becomes a really great decoy that you can open and get rid of these horrible people from your life, get them gone, and you've still got something left. Now, ultimately, it's going to come down to everybody's own personal circumstances and risk in that particular situation. As I said, there's probably some significant cultural differences to our brethren over in the USA. But I know for me, in my own situation, in my own life, I would not risk my own or my family's lives for gold or silver or money. It's no question about it. It's just simple. So definitely a safe can be that liability. And that's where things like this actually come into play. Now, somebody pointed out in the previous video where I showed it, the gentleman, he literally kept his entire silver stack in this. This is, for want of a better phrase, a piece of junk. It's not going to keep somebody out of it. The fact that it's got a little miniature safe in it, I guess, is a bit of a novelty more than anything. But what you really should be thinking about is maybe something like this, that's a real book, that's got those hollowed out pages that you see in the movies. Those are really great. I mean, if you've got a giant bookshelf it's going to take an awful long time or specific knowledge of what books maybe something's hidden in for somebody to go and find that particular book and get what you've got hidden in it out. So hiding in plain sight can be an interesting strategy, and it's one that I think a lot of people have to really delve down into their soul as to whether they're happy to have something like this just sitting on a shelf. And this, by the way, it's plastic. You can probably tell with any kind of close inspection that there's something a bit weird and off with this. But if it was a real book, it would be a lot more difficult to see. So you can see that there are some creative solutions to having secure stacks at home. Now, where this does potentially come into the benefit is if you've just got people, if you're living in a communal place, for example, and you just want a little lockbox that's there, if you're in and people are in, it's unlikely that this is going to be picked up and walked away by people you know. But if it was just a random book that had things in, they could just open it and take things out, and you'd never know until you checked it. So this is why this has got a little safe in it, and that's the extra benefit that would provide. But again, all of that is, it's kind of a little bit, it's not really great protection for your stack. So one thing that, of course, you can do is creatively hide your stack around the house. Now that is less practical to do with silver. To put things in perspective, this little square of gold here, this beautiful Johnson Matthey square of gold, if we can get it back in focus with the camera, there we go. This is, from memory, about 100 grams of gold, I think I'd want to say. So you're talking, probably 3 grams worth of, maybe even more, 3.5 grams worth of money. And then you look at these two, which is 2 grams worth in Royal Mint issue price, but probably closer to 1,200 in actual sort of real value. So all you can see in this gold-silver ratio market, that suddenly hiding a bunch of this silver compared with hiding a bit of gold becomes very, very different. Now this is easily hideable, and you can put this anywhere in your house that would be difficult for people to find quickly. And that's the biggest advantage to gold over silver. It can be, you can store much higher value of worth. If you're looking at the ratio 90 to 1, 90 ounces of silver, 3 kilos of silver as opposed to just 1 ounce of gold hidden away. And I have heard some really interesting and creative solutions for hiding precious metals within the home. Now, of course, it's going to be, again, relative down to everybody's own risk. And, you have some people hiding things in the loft or in the eaves of a room, or, I've even heard some creative solutions like 1 ounce gold coins in these. You can buy PVC tubes, piping essentially, and have them all in those, and then just have a pipe that looks like a pipe in a bathroom. Nobody's going to want to break into a waste pipe from a toilet to find where you've hidden your gold. It's sort of things like that you've got to kind of creatively think outside the box. The problem with this is, and it was a great little, I was watching, I can't remember where the video was now, I think it was on YouTube, and it was about how to sort of creatively put off burglars from stealing your valuables. And it was actually, produced by somebody who was a professional burglar at one point in their life. And he was saying that, the most creative spaces are really difficult to come by, because if you can think of it and somebody else can think of it. So if you're in your house and you're looking around and you think, behind that picture, somebody else is going to think that. And it probably will take a shorter time than you think to get there. Hiding it behind that loose floorboard. Yep, somebody's probably going to think about that. It's about the time, though, that it would be required to get access to these things that is the most important thing. And this burglar was talking about things like in the attic. An attic is a bad place for a burglar to go. It's a one-way street. You can't get out easily. You have to go up or down a ladder, or even just climb up there. And if somebody comes home mid-burglary, for example, you're a bit stuffed. So there are potential benefits to those things. So there's a whole host of creative thinking that you can put in to secure what you've got at home, perhaps outside of a safe or in conjunction with a safe. Now, the last segment of this video that I want to cover is insurance. Now, insurance is a really interesting one, and it's going to, of course, be subjective to everybody's own preferences around insurance. And it's really, really difficult to say whether or not insurance is something you should consider. It's going to be relative to each individual circumstance. One thing that I will say is that insurance companies And this is probably my own sort of personal bias flying in here, but personally, insurance companies are always out there not to pay. So if you are going to have your stack insured or have precious metals insurance for a business or whatever it is, you're going to have to really, really batten down on what it is that you're covering, how it's covered, why it's covered, and where you have to store it for it to be covered. There are stories of home insurance providers not covering bullion because there weren't weekly or monthly updates of what was actually in, for example, a safe. And a lot of the time you might even need to send photos of these items to the insurance providers. It's one of the biggest areas of potential fraud for an insurance provider to handle, and you've got to understand why they're cautious about this kind of thing. You know, a 1 ounce gold coin, £1,500 worth, who's to say whether it's actually been stolen or not? You could just say, you know, oh, well, I kept it at home in my little safe, and somebody's come in and got inside the safe, and you know, it's very difficult for the insurance provider to realistically cover that kind of thing without going to the nth degree to make sure they're protected. So definitely worth thinking about. Now, one thing actually I haven't talked about, which I really do want to talk about, is the safes themselves. You know, there are a whole host of different options when it comes to safes. What I would say is my biggest top tip is don't scrimp on a safe. Make sure you get a decent branded safe that is tried and tested. One thing that I would say is critical though is do a search on the internet, do a search on YouTube even. If there is a video out there of somebody showing you how to get inside that particular brand of safe and they doing it very quickly and easily, then don't buy that safe. You know, the real key advantage here is being able to fool somebody from getting inside your safe quickly. And if they can't get in quickly, they're either going to just go away because they're causing noise and the police are on the way, or they're going to give up and just try and find something else. They're going to steal the telly or something, and then maybe think about coming back later, and that's a question for another time. But the point is, if you have a safe which is very easy to open, and these days everybody's going to have their phone on them. If you come across, you know, Joe Blogg's Safe Inc., and they've got this safe, and you Google it and you find a YouTube video how to open it in 5 minutes, or it's no brainer. It's easy to avoid those safes. Keeping up to date whether or not the safe that you've bought has then subsequently had a video published about it is another good thing to keep a watchful eye for. Definitely worth thinking about. So, a whole host of different things to factor in. I hope that's been insightful for some. I think in summary what we can say is it is possible to have safety and security for your stack when stacking at home and storing at home, but you do need to think about and factor in a lot of the different elements that might be right for you in terms of risk. How are you going to secure it, and what kind of safe are you going to secure? What cost are you willing to put up for that safe? If you've only got, you know, a few hundred ounces worth of silver, that might sound like a lot, but is it worth spending £1,000 on a safe? Probably not. Should you get a little bit more creative with your hiding spots? Of course, you could. But then it's not in a secure location. You know, all of these questions you need to keep asking yourself, and that's what I've done for me in my own personal circumstances. Of course, I'm not being very specific here about what kind of safes I've got. I'm not going to give a safe review for obvious reasons. The points here are you need to think about what's right for you in your circumstances. And remember as well that a safe is not infallible. It's very much a vulnerability, in fact, in my opinion, which is why things like decoy safes are a great idea. And having things like this little dictionary lockbox might, for some out there, be an absolute no-no. You know, just thinking and looking at this going, well, it's a load of crap. It's not fit for purpose. It's going to break within half a second. It's just awful. You could probably throw it on the ground and crack it in half. And yeah, you could probably even bend it, to be quite frank, and open. I mean, look at this. It really is very easy. I'm not using this as my own personal security, but I'm not even putting force on that. It's already giving way and bending. So, you know, from my perspective, have a good think about those creative solutions. Think about what you're going to do to secure your stack at home. And if you don't care, then maybe you should think about caring, because you never know when something might come to bite you. So that has been me on safety and security and the subject of safes. I hope you've enjoyed it. A big thank you to all my BYB Rambling Society members who are in the Cool Kids Club for watching to minute 14 of my video. Thank you. Love to see you down in the comments. It's always a good fun thing to share with Mrs. Backyard Bullion. And if you have been watching to this far, let me know by saying hi to Mrs. Backyard Bullion. Anyway, look, I ramble. That's what I do. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next video. And as always, please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.